Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Our topic for today is building or how to build a customer-centric organization. And to help us with that topic, I have Nathan James. Nathan is Chief Product Officer at Planet DDS. He spent the last 15 years building products at more innovative companies like DDS, of course, Ministry Brands, Fleet Core, Instant Financial, ACS, and NCI. As for me, I'm your host, Mustafa Kapadia. We help CPOs build AI-native product teams. Listen, every product team is using AI. Very few are actually getting the impact from it. We help bridge that gap. Nathan, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you. Me as well. This is going to be good.
Listen, last time when we talked and you told me about the story or the transformation that you have led at Planet DDS, I'm like, dude, we have to talk about this. So if it's okay with you, let's kind of start from the beginning, right? So tell me, when you came to Planet DDS I think it was just over a year ago, right? What was the mandate that you had, or what was the vision that you had for the product organization and for the company at large?
For sure. Yeah, so coming into Planet DDS, it kind of actually starts at the recruiting story of why I came here in the first place. So Planet DDS is a dental software organization that lives in the private equity space, and it's really about growth. We're a profitable organization, and but we're still operating somewhat like a startup where we're growing, exponentially. And it was an opportunity to join a fast-moving organization that had a level of, we'll call it chaos, where we were doing good things, but they weren't always lining up to drive the level of outcome we wanted. And so having a conversation with our CEO, I drew out this diagram of a triangle, and I said, hey, for your organization, where do we want to live? Is it customer centricity? Is it operational efficiency? Or is it product excellence? And you can't choose all three unless you want to be mediocre. Where do we want to bias?
Yeah.
He said, Nathan, I want us to be the most customer-centric organization possible. And for me, that level of vision and clarity tied to the growth rate was kind of the reason I joined. And so that was my mandate, was go and build a product organization that cuts down some of the chaos, builds some process, architects a growth rate, and really leans in on customer centricity.
I think that's great. I'm curious, I'm glad that you had the vision. Was there any debate about what it means to be a customer-centric organization? Was there, or did you, or was it fairly understood within the organization where you want to go?
I think it was fairly understood, and it was met with a lot of excitement. I think historically,
which is unusual because you go into organizations, you try to change, you get a lot of pushback.
Yes, no, I think that's true. I think we are about 300 employees, and so we're still a smaller organization and nimble enough that we're very much led by our leader and visionary CEO.
Perfect.
And so when he says, hey, this is the direction that I want to go, everybody really rallies around that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I think, honestly, the organization was already striving and they had a desire to be customer-centric, but I don't think all of the systems and processes were in place to actually listen to the customers or understand what they wanted. And so there was a lot of episodic decisions made based on different stakeholders or the loudest customer screaming versus the actual structured way of being customer-centric.
Yes. No, I actually, that makes sense too, because I know you showed me a dashboard last time when we met, and I love the way that you listen to customers. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Actually, let's go back. So I'm glad you had the conversation. I'm glad that there's a clear vision and a mandate. Take me back to what it was like your first day or your first month when you said, okay, this is where we want to go. What did you actually find when you took over the team?
Yeah.
Or what are some of the challenges that you thought you had to overcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I came into an existing team. There was a little bit of a smaller product team. There was no design team. And you can see that in many of our products. They looked like they had been designed 20 years ago, which just meant that there was opportunity, right? And I sat in my first kind of roadmap meeting, and I learned that this roadmap meeting literally happens every week. And we pulled up a PowerPoint and moved a Gantt chart around in real time. And the next week, we did the same thing. And that was our planning. And it was a way to get everybody in the organization aligned. But frankly, the organization had grown out of that level of flexibility and we'll call it ad hoc planning. And so my first mandate was kind of like, how do we help create a process that creates some consistency, some visibility, creates some predictability, and then aligns everybody on a core set of initiatives versus it being what I would call a shotgun approach. We do a little
Yeah.
bit of everything.
Yeah. And that's always hard because roadmap is when the rubber hits the road, right?
Yes.
And so that's where you get, like you said, either the loudest customer complaining or you get the highest paid person in the room dictating the mandate, right? So was it, tell me more. So yes, you had to change design,
Mhm.
right? You had to change the way you do the roadmap.
Yeah.
Tell me how your team was actually listening to customers at that moment in time, or how well were they listening, or were they not listening at all, or what was that like?
Yeah, I don't know that we were listening very much. Our product organization was very much in delivery mode. We did have
Mm,
product managers and product owners, but our product managers spent most of their time figuring out how to help the organization know what we were building, doing lots of KB articles, doing lots of demos. It was very much pushing on the organization and on the customers. Here's what we're doing. We had an idea, and I hope you love it. And trying to change that culture to say, hey,
yes.
not our ideas that matter. It's actually the customers. Now, we have some great ideas, but they should all be like based from both a qualitative and a quantitative
Yeah. Well,
measurement
they should be
perspective.
aligned to some kind of need or challenge, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And so trying to help them understand product management is not responsible for delivery. Starts with vision, goes to product discovery before we ever get to delivery.
Yes.
And yes, there's delivery, but then even on the other side of delivery, there's accountability.
Yes.
It flows all the way to financial success. So
Yes.
product owns vision to financial success and everything in between, not just the ability to push features out.
Yes. Did you guys have a robust product discovery process as well? Because that's the best vehicle out there to listen to what customers are looking for, right?
We did not. We did not.
Mm,
It was we had a great, phenomenal sales team, and they brought up feedback in based on what the biggest opportunity was. We
got
had
it.
executives who were very plugged into the market, had some great ideas, but there was no structured way to be able to kind of programmatically get feedback, sift through that feedback, and then make
Yeah.
sure that what we're building actually meets the needs of the customers.
I think that's great. I mean, listen, Nathan, that those are pretty big challenges, right? You talked about design, you talked about the way you do roadmap, the way you talk about product discovery, and the whole mindset, which I think is the biggest challenge, is how product owns that end to end.
Hmm.
Different people can plug in from a delivery perspective, but the vision all the way to impact.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was not an easy change.
It was surprising when I put it on a PowerPoint for the first time and showed the team, kind of in my first introduction.
Yeah.
They were all like, "Oh, I didn't realize that's the new expectation." Okay, so
Wow.
it took us a while to get over that hump.
What was their first reaction other than being surprised that this is how to think or rethink about product? Was it pushback at all?
I think there was pushback, and frankly, I think it continued for probably 6 to 9 months until they started to see success.
Mm,
And the pushback was not from a lack of desire. I had some great people on it, but they had filled their schedule. It's is it Parkinson's law? Work always expands to fit the available
yes.
space.
Yes.
They had become so busy with KB articles and internal enablement and
Oh,
demos that trying to get them out of that in order to focus on the important things of vision and product discovery was difficult. So they just stacked the new requirements on top of the old things that they felt like they couldn't let go.
yes.
And it created a bit of a challenge. Once
Yes.
we started bringing in some fresh blood, some additional folks to the product team who knew how to operate in this model, that was kind of the unlock because they started to see the possibilities once others
Perfect.
were able to demonstrate it.
Yeah. Because I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think with product, any kind of transformation, it is very much an apprenticeship or a coaching model
Yeah,
because it's hard for people to actually do it till you actually have somebody embedded
yeah.
will do it.
Mustafa, that's an interesting dynamic there, and I'd be curious, kind of your 2 cents on it as well. There is absolutely the mentorship concept, but there's this like debate in product around process
Yeah.
versus just hire really great people and let them kind of figure
Oh,
it out. And neither one is right. There's some
yeah.
balance in the middle. But like I'd love to kind of get your 2 cents on like on especially with all the craziness of AI, et cetera. How are
Yes.
you
Well,
seeing?
AI just makes it even more, it makes it in many ways faster and more difficult.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to listen, I can talk about this, like I said, till the cows come home. I actually think that to have a high performing team in product, I think you need a little bit of both.
Mm.
So let me tell you the dangers,
Yeah.
right? If you just focus on good people, then it's very hard to scale,
Yes.
right? In your team, I think you said about 20, 25 PMs. At best, you can hire 20%
Mm.
as high performers.
Mm.
Just law of the land,
Yep.
right? If you are able to hire 100% high performers, then you and I should talk and figure out a new business. um, so you have that, and but those are great because they tell you or they raise the bar for everyone, right? But then for the rest of the team, you need to have some kind of scaffolding. So let me go on the opposite. If all we think about is doing product, if all we think about is process re-engineering, then what you're doing is you end up creating process jockeys, which is probably exactly where you were before you joined,
Yes.
right? And
Yep.
so you need to have, I almost think like operating principles or scaffolding about how you think about your job.
Hmm.
And then have the good people show them the way to move forward,
I like
right?
that.
And you know, I've done that when I was at Google. I've done that when I was at IBM, and it works surprisingly well.
Hmm.
But being embedded is key because it is an apprenticeship model, right? And the minute you start bringing in processes, that's a whole different story. Now add to that this idea about AI, and that just changes things, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, you shared earlier that a lot of them start using AI, spending time on knowledge base articles and so on and so forth.
Yep.
That's a perfect job that you build an AI agent for,
Yes. Yes.
right? I mean,
Uh,
seriously, it's like, why, if you're spending time on this, build an agent,
yep.
right? And if you, I don't know if you have a product ops organization or not, but if you have a centralized organization of some kind, you build one agent that is quote unquote approved by Planet DDS, and then everybody uses it,
Yeah.
right? So that's when you start to get real efficiencies and real impact, right?
So
And then,
that,
of course, in product discovery, it changes too about how you do it, right? And we briefly talked about that as well.
I love it.
So
So the way that we're thinking about it is to your point, too much process will break everything. Not enough process will just create chaos. And so we're thinking about it as tools. How do we build tools versus frameworks that we
yeah,
can give to the teams? And I think an AI agent skill is a perfect example. So we have folks that are building, like, we've moved away from PRDs and we're doing
perfect.
intent canvases, which are single one pagers. And so
Yes,
one of our product leaders created an AI skill that asks a bunch of questions, et cetera, and helps
100%
generate the
perfect.
first draft of that. And
Yeah,
so instead of taking weeks to do a PRD, it takes an hour, and you have all the information you need to start kicking off the conversation with your teams and
yes,
customers.
yes. I agree, and I think the nature of multiple tangents. I think the nature of PRD is changing dramatically,
Yeah.
right? I still think that you need to have a one pager, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
because you still need to write down your thinking.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, a product manager's real job is to do better thinking,
Mm.
right? Because you're constantly making decisions, like you talked about earlier, that you own the vision all the way to impact,
Hmm.
right? That's not a linear process,
No.
right? You know this as well, which is why process doesn't work either. Because in order for your vision to become reality, you have to take all of these multiple paths, and you go to dead ends, and you make U-turns, and you do this and you do that. All of that you do is because it allows you to do better thinking to ultimately come up with an idea or a product that will ultimately deliver impact,
Yes.
right? And so to me, that that for AI is the best tool that you can have
Hmm.
to help your PMs do better thinking. And I think the idea is to build tools or agents that allow them to think better
Yeah.
is much better than putting down together and saying you'll do A plus B plus C plus D,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so even the one page of PRD, you can have an AI agent ask you questions, and it's gonna give you a whole bunch of requirements out of it,
Yep.
right? But why stop there? This is what we talked about last time, is that you can actually have a synthetic user do a first sniff test.
Yes.
Right? So now you're bringing discovery into your process.
Yeah.
Or you can actually have a red team type of thing and saying, tell me all the things that can go wrong if I build this.
That's right.
Right? Because all it's doing is sharpening what you're building and sharpening your thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and full circle back to kind of the customer-centric organization and the tools for that. So we've stood up a tool. The name of the tool is called Zentric with a K at the end.
Yeah.
And it is a customer feedback repository
Perfect.
that we can
Yeah.
tie into AI.
Is that the one that you showed me last time? Yes.
It's the one I showed you last time. Yeah. So we had AHA and we had AHA Ideas portals.
Yeah.
We had Pendo for NPS feedback. We had let's see, Zendesk tickets. We record every call through Gong.
Perfect.
With account manager sales folks. We also have industry specific forums where people are talking about our products. And so Centric has built a system that takes all of those data points and pipes them into one system. It also attaches it to our Salesforce account. So it's really easy to understand who's saying what. And then we log in and we can see themes and trends about like, what is everybody talking about? What is everybody asking about?
Yeah.
Now, the most powerful piece was the MCP. And so we have access to all that data directly in Claude. And so we did exactly what you described a second ago. We created personas. We said, go and find, map everybody that you can figure out. Who are they? A front office manager at a dental clinic, or are they the CTO?
Perfect.
And so then take all the data we have from these different inputs and train personas. So now we have 10 different personas. And anytime we build an intent canvas, we now run it against those personas and say, what would the personas say about this? We do the same thing with prototypes. And so it's truly trained on customer specific data, and it doesn't replace customer conversations.
No, of course not.
It really gets far down that road.
Yeah. No, and I liked the approach, and I think it's absolutely right. It's like when you have an idea, and I'm glad that you actually, the one thing I like, I'm glad that you're not talking to one synthetic user or one synthetic persona. You're talking to 10 because you can get 10 different opinions.
Yes.
And I like that idea because you know what? Ultimately, the PM will have to use judgment to decide which synthetic persona he or she's going to listen to, because you don't want your PMs to outsource their thinking. You want them to use AI to give them different angles so they can actually have a better idea, or they can form better judgments. But the fact is that you can actually take synthetic personas. Heck, you can build synthetic personas of your internal SMEs as well.
Yes.
Right? About what engineering's going to think, or how you can actually get it better aligned. What is sales going to think? What is marketing going to think? What your CE is going to do? We have clients in which we actually build synthetic personas of all the key stakeholders. Right? Just so that it's almost like before an idea even goes to see a real human, it has been vetted by a synthetic cohort of some kind.
That's awesome.
And the reason is not because you replace those folks. It's just that when the idea gets to them, then the conversation is not 4 hours.
Yes.
But an hour, but truly on things that will move the needle.
Yeah. Well, and it also pushes the conversation. So we still do discovery calls and just broad conversations, but instead now we can build an intent canvas. We can put it into through the whole persona mapping, understand qualitative and quantitative data directly tied to it. We sit down and do a design thinking workshop with engineering, product, and design.
That's great.
That turns into a prototype. And so within a couple of days from ideation, we now have a prototype that we can get in front of customers. And so that's the most valuable piece. And you can set up synthetic users to look at it and give you initial feedback. But the quicker I can get actual UI, not a wireframe, but an actual UI in front of customers, the faster I can get real life feedback, even before it goes to the engineers. And we found
this is
the engineering cycle.
So full circle, coming back to your early question, do you do good people or process? This is where operating principles and scaffolding help, right? So the idea is that, okay, you use this agent to build your first level of requirements. Then you do this to actually get to your first prototype. You need to get feedback from real people of, maybe 3 people, 5 people, whatever that threshold is. Right. And then once you do that, then you go through these different agents or these different synthetic users to get it ready for the next turn. So I think that level of scaffolding is great. And
Yeah.
by the way, this is where AI can do fantastic work, right? You can actually build something called an operating layer and an operating system that sits behind every PM that they can then just interact on Claude or Codex, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
um, to say, okay, I want to do this now, then I want to do this, then I want to do this, then I want to do this.
Yeah.
And as long as we keep the PM in the loop, in which they're not moving from just approvers to actively making decisions,
Yeah.
I think that's too many times I see our clients. Sometimes when we go in, we see clients saying that, well, I'll just have the AI make all the decisions for me. I'm like, well, then you're going to get a very generic response, a very generic product
Yeah.
that is not going to drive impact. So, but the fact is that you're thinking that way, I think is fantastic,
It's been a
right?
lot of fun. It's been a lot of
Yes. Which is why I think you should definitely, when I send you the benchmarking link, I would love to get your response to see how
Yeah.
you guys. We have moved so far away from the farm, but that's okay. um, I love this conversation. So this is what you're doing now. Let me see if I can thread everything together. I
Mhm.
love the fact of what you're doing now. I want us to go back to, we talked about some of the challenges that you had.
Mhm.
Tell me, what were the first things that you did to actually change the way your team was working to be more customer centric? All the solutions you talk now are great, but that has to be built on a foundation that's built on culture and mindset, right?
Yeah.
And a little bit of process. Um, what did you end up doing to actually change the way your team was working?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, I took a huge leap of faith, and I designed this thing called what I call it, a customer feedback collator, which is essentially Zentric. I put it on a PowerPoint deck, and I said, we're going to be customer centric. We're going to get this information, and we're going to do something with it. And I have no idea how. And that was July of last year, even before a lot of the Claude agents and things like that
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
started coming out. And just kind of like looking into the future a little bit, saying, here's the problem to solve, and here's what would solve it. But how? I'm not quite sure yet. And come full circle a year later, we have a system stood up, it's in place, and it's working extremely well. So I'd
That's
say
perfect.
a little bit of that visionary, like, here's the problem I need to solve, doing product on my
Yeah,
own product process and team. Right? Here's the hypothesis. Here's the vision of what I want. Now let's go figure out how to do it. So that was kind of one piece, becoming really customer centric. The other piece is on the process side of things. I'm not a huge fan of process, but I absolutely think that frameworks and scaffolding are the way to
yeah,
help
100%.
a team operate at scale. And so we implemented a very light version of SAFe, the Scaled Agile
Mm,
framework, where essentially we started operating in quarters. And it
yeah,
allowed us to separate kind of, and I'll use that word I used earlier, the episodic nature,
yeah,
where it was like, hey, let's all swarm and just figure this thing out. It allowed us to separate some of the thinking from the building. So that way we could
perfect.
really make sure we thought first before we built. And it served us well. Now, it is not serving us well, I think, a year later with all of the iteration and speed of things. We've taken a 3-month planning cycle, and we're now able to do that in less than 30 days, which is
That's
exactly
perfect.
what I want to see. We're starting
Yes,
to see a development cycle that's going from 1 quarter or 2 quarters or 3 quarters. We're being able to deliver things in 30 to 45 days.
yes,
Now the go to market, instead of 90 days, we're figuring out how to do that in about 30 to
100%.
45 days.
Yeah.
So I don't think long-term SAFe and that rigid structure is the way to go, but I do
No,
think that
I
that
think
framework,
safe is actually going to hold you back,
yeah, I think so.
right?
I think,
And I think what you're basically doing is these learning loops that are
mhm,
happening faster and faster,
yep,
right? And so it is very much, um, it's very much going to change. And I have this whole point of view of that product is moving into this funnel type of thing in which your loops are getting faster. The artifacts that you create to get in and out of a loop is getting smaller and smaller and more concise and bite sized, right?
yeah,
Um, and the way and the nature of what engineering can do is changing too,
it
right?
is.
You can now push out everything in smaller bite sizes much faster,
Yep.
as opposed to the big release plans that people had, which is what Safe really was there to actually solve.
Yeah, well, the thing that I explained to my team back in January at an offsite was the reason that we needed SAFe is because we only had so many bets we could make, and we had to be as sure as possible
Yeah,
that we made the right ones.
yeah,
The beauty of the faster speed is we don't have to be as sure on every bet. We can make more bets. We're going to
yes,
win some, we're going to lose some, but we don't need that big,
yeah,
heavy, expensive structure up front. We get out, talk to customers, and iterate quickly.
100%. Yeah. But what you do need now, because of the way things are moving, and you tell me if you, and maybe you guys have already done this, is you need to have something at the back end that says you've made all these bets. How do we now make sure that these bets are the right bets or not? Right.
Yeah,
And so that monitoring piece or the impact piece, which is always hard because that takes time.
does.
That is where I see a lot of companies struggling with as well, because now they can deliver faster,
Mhm.
but how do I know that what I delivered is actually moving the needle or not?
So about a
Right.
year ago, we hired a go-to-markets leader, and the number one job I gave her was exactly that. I said, I need you to build dashboards. Everything we're releasing has a business case, and I need to
Yeah.
know, not 12 months afterwards, if we hit our goals.
Where is it? Perfect.
And we had, I mean, she stood it up, built out Claude dashboards. We're getting all the data from the different places, and it's working. And so now we can kind of see what bets are working and what aren't.
Yes.
But we're actually starting to move away from that now. That it's valuable and it's interesting, but we're starting to lean more towards, is the correct measurement of success for our company. Is it the financial business case that we went and built, or is it customer centricity? Is it the customer said, yes, you delivered something, I'm adopting it, and it's meeting my needs? And so we're trying
Yeah.
to find out what that balance is and find better ways to get that feedback loop from customers after the fact,
Yeah.
and tie in more adoption metrics versus just purely business cases.
I wonder, well, I think we're talking about leading versus lagging metrics, right?
Yes.
Because I think if customers like it, that's the leading metric.
Yeah.
And then the financial piece will come eventually.
Yep.
Because not every feature is going to have an impact on finance, but on the financial needle, but it will definitely have an impact on being stickiness.
Yeah. I'd say
Right.
the most valuable aspect of that was not actually tracking whether or not we hit our business cases. It was forcing the product managers to start thinking in forms of business cases. Do we do
Yeah.
this or do we do this based on the value that it provides to customers?
Oh, that's right. So you use it as a prioritization metrics.
As a forcing function to have the
Yeah.
conversation. We don't always use that to actually stack rank them,
Yeah.
but it's a data point that we use to force the conversation.
But let me ask you this, because business cases are notoriously hard to get right?
Oh, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's just a big guess.
Yep.
Right? But if you're moving as fast, you can actually get better validation much faster than by the time you actually build a business case.
Yes.
Right? So
Yep.
now the prioritization is more around, in many ways, prioritization has moved a little bit to the right, because you can build something quickly, but you can also kill something quickly too.
Yes. Yep.
Right? Now that changes the nature between product and engineering in that relationship.
It does.
Right? But that is, to me, I actually think business cases usually are there to actually get funding,
Mhm.
right? And it makes sense, right? When you have only so much capacity to go through engineering, you need to build a business case to make sure that it's worth doing or not, right?
Yep.
Now we're getting to the point in which that, not that engineering will ever have unlimited capacity, because you'll have token costs. But we are getting to the point in which that it's not the bottleneck anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And so now it changes the way we think about what's going to be pushed out and how because you can push out a lot of things. You can push out things to just 1% or 10% of the population.
Yeah.
Measure it and then decide if the other 90% get it or not.
Yep.
Or kill it.
Or kill it.
Which reminds me, how is your relationship? I'm sure that as you were putting this together, even not just what you're doing with AI and changing the way you work, but this changes the nature between product and engineering as well.
Yes.
Right? Tell me more about how you were able to overcome or build that bridge.
Yeah. About 15, 16 years ago, I remember being a part of a product organization. I wasn't the CPO at the time, but I remember hearing a conversation between our head of product and our head of engineering. And I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not even pretty sure, they were sitting there yelling at each other. And they were very frustrated about, whose fault was it or whose responsibility was it, et cetera. And I remember afterwards hearing people, talk about how blame always rolls downhill, and products there in order to just point at engineering, say it's your fault.
Yeah.
And at that time, early on in my career, I made the decision of like, that's wrong. Like, that's just the wrong way to do it. It's not product and engineering. That concept and terminology should go out the window.
Yeah,
We are
100%.
product development, and either
Yeah.
we win or we lose together. There is no
Yep.
pointing fingers. Now, we can do a retro at the leadership level and figure out, was it a requirements miss or a delivery miss? That's fine, but it's product and development together. So that was the very first thing that I had to do, was really lean in. And I can't say we get it perfect all the time, but it's really about leaning in and building that relationship with my counterparts in engineering and saying, like, it's not your department and my department, it's our department. And
Yeah.
now the question is how do we mature our department so that way you're getting what an old CTO called a high protein diet of requirements, right? Give me
Yeah.
the high protein diet of requirements, and I'll give you a high protein diet of delivery. And
Perfect.
so still working through the details of that on a daily basis, as I'm sure
Yeah.
all of us are. But as we have pushed and reformed, our engineering team has done the same. And it's been really cool to see kind of the ability for us to push each other. As we go a little bit faster, they go a little bit faster. And then
Yes.
for us to go a little bit
Yeah.
faster as well.
And that's the way it's supposed to work, right? In that the two teams are complementary
Yes.
as opposed to being opposing each other, because that unfortunately happens more often than I like to admit. And you're absolutely right, because I think it, in many ways, what you said earlier is 100% true, because if engineering goes faster, it puts the onus on product to go faster.
Yes.
Product goes faster, engineering goes faster, because ultimately it is one process.
Yes. Yep.
Right? It's deciding what to build and then building it.
Yeah.
Right? But it also is a very different use of AI, right? Engineering is all about these autonomous pipelines.
Yeah.
That will take you from point A to point B.
Yep.
Product is all about, well, I can't use just autonomous pipelines. Like what we said earlier, I got to do all of this discovery to figure out what to even put into the pipeline.
Yeah.
But it does change. The other thing it changes also is that now your thinking has to be much better about what you put through the pipeline.
Yes.
Right. In the past, you could have quote unquote incomplete thinking, and because engineering took time, you could refine that thinking over time.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Now, you don't have that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be more buttoned up on the product side.
We have to be more buttoned up on the product side, and we're realizing the cost of not being buttoned up.
Yes.
So
it's slop on the other side. I mean, frankly speaking.
We've learned that if we have a full-blown prototype that has gone through 2 to 5 customer iterations, when we hand it to engineering, they can move so much faster.
Oh yeah.
Because it's all buttoned up. There's not a lot of guesswork. When we give them a partially done one, or when we give them one and then change 5 times, it slows down the delivery so much.
Yeah.
And so the big bottleneck for a product has always been, well, engineering, why can't you go faster? Well, now that finger's pointed right back at us. And the answer is because you didn't have the scope defined, because the prototype wasn't, at a state that had customer validation, et cetera. And so it's not a toss it over the fence, but it is a, like, how do we do a better job together so that way we can speed up both sides?
Well, this is where I think what you originally talked about is the right thing, in which you're shrinking the idea about requirements to one page, going through the process in which you're building prototypes, you're going through the design thinking sessions with engineering, which is fantastic. You're doing the prototyping, you're getting customer feedback, and then eventually translating that into something that you can hand off to engineering, right?
Yep.
And do it that way. Because I think the idea is that if you want to go fast, you got to go small.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. It's almost like everything has to be like, okay, can we build this in a week or two?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the mindset. You almost have to think about it that way, because then that allows you to make more bets, smaller bets, so the risk also reduces dramatically.
Yeah. I agree.
Because on the other end, if you just put slop out, your customers are going to get confused.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're like, okay, that just dilutes my brand. Yes, I'm pushing things out faster.
Yep.
But what's the impact on the brand? Am I pushing out too many things that they're like, well, it's constantly changing and I can't keep up with the platform?
I think that's
I think that's the other problem we're gonna have.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest risk for product organizations, bar none. And we're not talking about it enough as an industry yet. We all know about AI slop, where things can just be generated so fast that it's just a bunch of junk. But I'm starting to see it in other products where they can move so fast. They're just bolting on features that they've always wished they could do without all the proper thinking.
Yeah.
And you think about why Google beat Yahoo, or why Figma beat what was it?
Yeah, I know. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because of the simplicity and because of how
Yes.
maniacal they were at building the simple yet powerful things. And so
Yes.
if we allow that to go crazy, we will end up with feature slop, and it will not only hurt our brand, hurt
Yeah.
our customers, but
Yeah.
eventually it'll make our
Yeah,
product.
I agree. I call it slopware, and that's exactly what it is,
I like
because
that.
it is at a certain point in time. It also depends on the model that predominantly um, is in the organization. So if you are in a feature factory model,
Hmm.
this idea that creating more slopware is much, much higher,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to a true product discovery model in which it's product discovery and product delivery. And so the idea is that you actually build things that customers care about. But
Yeah.
then always has to be some kind of a forcing function saying, how does it impact the core experience and the brand?
Yes.
Because even though you may push out 10 features that the customers or the clients like any other product, on the receiving end, those people have to be open to that level of change and
Yeah.
that pace of change,
Yep.
right?
And not every customer idea is a good idea. So getting down to the teaching your product managers to do bonefish analysis,
Yeah,
5 whys, get to the root problem, and like solve it there
yeah,
versus building every add-on that's asked
I
for. That's
agree.
critical.
Well, Nathan, we're almost out of time, but this is great because we actually went all over the place. So let me ask you one last question.
For sure.
Tell me what's next. Like, where do you guys want to go next? I think the stuff that you've done to move from almost a feature centric to a customer centric organization is fantastic. I think the leap to using AI effectively is awesome. What's next? What are the big challenges, or where do you want to go? Where is the next frontier?
Yeah. So it's all about collapsing the product teams. So historically, we had Scrum teams. Now we're
Yeah,
moving to impact pods. That's one product manager, one
perfect,
designer, one engineer,
perfect.
maybe a junior engineer as well, to really lean in and to move quickly. Like you said, tackle a small item and have it out in a week
Yeah.
instead of a month or a quarter. And now we're starting to see the blurring of lines. So we're playing
Oh
around with
yeah.
tools that say, hey, instead of building a prototype in Lovable, let's build a prototype on top of our actual code. So that way a
Yes.
product manager or designer can push a PR and the engineer is just plugging in the back. And so
100%.
as those lines start to blur, I think that's the future. And the question that I have, I think there was a great post by Andreessen Horowitz the other day where he said, hey, I don't know in the future if there will be designers, product people, and engineers. I think we're all just going to be builders. And
Yeah.
you're going to have a single department with a career ladder of how can a builder do product discovery and design and engineering. And of
Yeah.
course, we still need architecture and planning and some of those
100%.
supporting mechanisms.
Yeah.
But I think the future and where we're going is collapse that team and then be able to create that cross training capability. So that way
Yes.
it's not a toss over the fence, but it's really a small group of people walking hand to hand towards solving
Yeah.
customer problems quickly.
Well, I'll go a step further. I actually think that the roadmap or the future for product is even brighter,
Mm,
because ultimately the way the way companies win is building something that customers care about,
yes.
right? That's it. I mean, it's not rocket science. um, the only organization in the only team in a large organization that's equipped or has the ability to do that is product,
Yes.
right? And so to me, AI is actually a boon for being a product manager.
I agree.
And I actually think that in the future we're going to need more and more product, because the real moat, the real break, is your ability to think about what you're going to build, because you can build anything,
Yep.
right? Now, to your point, that can somebody in business or sales or somebody else take on the product mindset and build something? 100%, right? But this idea about what builders or how to build a product, I think becomes much more important than
Yes.
anything else,
Yep.
right? And it has impact on how the rest of the organization is organized, to be honest with
I think
you,
you're
right?
right. I
Yeah.
think you're right.
So I think it's going to be, I think the future is great. I always talk to CPOs or PS, I shouldn't say CPOs, product managers who are afraid of AI taking their jobs away. I'm like, dude, you have it completely wrong.
Yes.
I think it's the opposite. I think
Biggest
actually you need more, not less,
yes.
right? Because when you can build anything, deciding what to build is the competitive advantage,
Yes, that's
right?
it.
That's it. Listen, we are way over time, but that's great because that means that we had a good conversation. I would love to have you back in about 6 months or a year, and you can tell me how things are going if you're up for that.
Would love that. Thank you so much for
Perfect.
the opportunity, Mustafa.
Good. Nathan, thank you once again. This has been fantastic. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.